The Long Road to True Happiness by WierdRandomTina. Chapter 19. Uncertainty. In the beginning, getting involved with Branch had been about Poppy finally reaching out to the Grey Loner, offering him some light companionship, cheering him up, and, well, eventually persuading him to be like everyone else. But then her purpose changed. It turned out being totally different from everyone else was precisely what Poppy had grown to appreciate about him. His personality was so much more complex, with such a wide range of emotions, and it fascinated her. Whenever the princess thought about Branch, it nearly took her breath away. And lately, she found herself thinking about him more and more. Every spare moment she had, most of her free time, any lull in the party atmosphere, there he would be. Smoky grey skin with a touch of olive green, exotic dark as midnight hair, gentle grey eyes with that nice hint of blue, drifting into her mind yet again. It took Poppy some time to register that Branch was on her mind more often than anyone, even more than Greek, and she thought about him a lot. Or at least she used to. She remembered the warm fuzzy sensation that would rise into her chest whenever she was near Creek. How content he made her. How much she adored his silly charm and sweet gestures. But all of those feelings were mild in comparison to the pure joy that rushed through Poppy's veins on her way to visit Branch's bunker. How every first sight of him made her heart flip over. How every sweet little gesture sent shivers down her spine. How much she savoured each second she was near him. At times it was almost overwhelming. But carefree Princess Poppy had never been an overthinker, so she concluded these feelings were elation at how things were finally working out with the isolated troll. Branch could hardly believe that Poppy had visited him 14 times already. Yet, at the same time, it felt like she had visited countless times. 14 visits. He didn't need her colourful scrapbook to tell him that. He didn't need his detailed journal to keep track either. Time spent with the beautiful princess was like a constant song stuck in his head, replaying over and over. He was very used to Poppy's routine visits. Perhaps too used to them. Branch would count down the hours to the next time he'd get to see her again. She'd arrive, brighten his day, and leave in 3 blinks of an eye, plunging him back into cloudy darkness. The second she was gone, he was already envisioning the next time he'd get to see her again. It was a never-ending cycle. But his precious moments with Princess Poppy were madly bittersweet. He was finally acquainted with her, but not actually close to her. He couldn't take their special time together for granted, but he also couldn't fully embrace it, because it would never become something truly meaningful. He adored every and any sliver of kindness she offered him, even though she treated every other troll with the same exact kindness. Branch's dreams of the princess had not only become more frequent, but had also intensified, from being intimately close and expressing their love for each other, to dreadful repeats of her emphasizing how much she hates him. Since Branch had wished for years to spend time with Poppy, he had expected, or most likely just foolishly hoped, these brief visits would satisfy that stubborn longing once and for all. Instead, they left him craving more. Her limited presence made his heart swell like a balloon, only to deflame when she was absent, making him feel emptier than he had when she had never hung out with him at all. Branch couldn't deny it any longer. He was far past simply admiring Princess Poppy. It wasn't even about having a nagging crush on her anymore. Branch had fallen in love with her. Deeply in love with her. Even worse, he not only loved her, he longed for her to love him too. But she never would. And she shouldn't. Poppy deserved much better than a sour, good-for-nothing, colourless hermit. and in no way did he deserve a future queen who is even more beautiful on the inside than she was on the outside. Branch would never have a relationship with her, because he and Poppy would never even have a true friendship. They were acquaintances, not really friends. Her forced exaggerated affection hurt more than if she had flat out ignored or hated him all these years. She acts like she cares so much when she really doesn't, while I act like I don't care when I really, really do. What a perfect friendship. Poppy's visits meant more than anything to him, but not as much to her. They were a constant painful reminder of what could and couldn't be. For so long, Branch had kept all his softer emotions locked in a steel cage for this very reason, to avoid inevitable and unnecessary disappointment. And then he turned around and handed Poppy the key, his freed hopes floating into the clouds, and now they were crashing back down to the ground. He had gotten too involved, let things get too far. So now, he's not only going to rip out his own heart in two and throw it away the pieces, but also tell the most incredible girl in the world, who he loves more than life itself, that he wants nothing to do with her. Nauseous didn't even begin to describe the pang in his stomach. Their next hangout day, Wednesday, arrived painfully slow. Branch waited anxiously outside the bunker, thinking it would be more convenient to retreat underground and lock the door than to grant Poppy entry only to kick her out a minute later. She was never late for their meetings. If anything, she was usually half an hour early. But today it was 10 minutes past their scheduled time, and there was still no sign of her. Maybe she's sick of coming all the way out here for nothing, and decided not to bother anymore. Branch knew that was impossible, only his foolish desperation talking. Poppy didn't know the meaning of the term give up. He wished she did. He didn't have a chance to let his thoughts build up, for a rustle in the bushes up ahead and the slight fluffy magenta hair bouncing above the leaves signalled Poppy's arrival. Branch took a deep, slow breath, trying to ease his pounding heart and force his mind to go blank and emotionless. Poppy seemed happier than usual, if that was even possible, which made it worse knowing that in a few minutes he was going to crush all of it like a bug under his foot. But she'll get over it, and then she'll be much happier in the long run without fussing over me. I'm just a knot in her hair. I'll only ever bring her down. It's the best for both of us. Hey, Branch! Sorry I'm late. Harper's art class ran longer than... She rose, suddenly looking very concerned. Branch! What's wrong? Are you okay? You look awful. He hadn't looked in the mirror this morning. He seldom did, since there was nothing worthwhile looking at. But considering how stressed out he's been the last day or two, he probably looked like a Halloween zombie. I'm fine, but you need to leave. You shouldn't be here. Branch's half-hearted attempt at deterring Poppy only had the opposite effect. Oh no! Are you not feeling well? Don't worry, I know the perfect soup recipe. I'll run back to my pod and make it for you, plus some nice lemon tea. Then bring it here. No! Don't bother! He couldn't hold back, couldn't sugarcoat it. He needed to get his point across without leaving her any room to object. She can't keep fussing over me like this. I'm no good for her. I feel fine. I don't want anything from you. I want you to go away. Poppy almost stumbled backward, equally shocked, puzzled, and hurt. Just this morning, she'd written a song about how happy she was to be friends with Branch. Why was he suddenly reverting back to his former coldness? There was an indescribable misery in his eyes that she had never seen before. Sure, looking miserable was kind of his thing, but this was something else. Something deeper. I don't understand. I thought things were going really well with us. Why are you mad at me? I'm only trying trying to help you feel better.
Well, you're not helping. This whole happiness thing you've been trying to accomplish has only made me feel worse. It's a waste of time for both of us. And I've had enough. I don't want to see you anymore. Ever. The bitterness in his voice was directed at himself for saying these words, unprovoked, cruel things to her. It's what needs to be done. But the heartbreak in Poppy's eyes, combined with the sadness in her voice, was unbearable.
Did I do something wrong? I didn't mean to.
Yes, no, it's not. You're not. I can't.
Branch's voice cracked, and he turned around to hide the tears escaping his eyes. He wanted to run, hide, sink into the ground, get eaten by a tarantula. Anything to get away from this living nightmare. But he couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. He hadn't turned around fast enough. Poppy had caught a glimpse of one tear rolling down his grey cheek. After several long seconds of strained silence, she took a couple of timid steps towards him. Branch? He didn't move, but she could hear the uneven breathing that he was trying and failing to conceal. She took a few more steps, until she was standing almost right behind him, and continued with a voice like a soft breeze. Branch, please don't do this. Just talk to me. I can't read your mind. I want to be here for you, but I can't be if you won't let me. Be honest with me. Please. Poppy waited patiently for Branch to absorb her words. He half discreetly wiped away the dampness on his cheek, then on the other cheek. Then he drew a shaky breath, then swallowed the lump in his throat. Finally, he replied in a weak voice, so quiet she had to lean closer to hear clearly. Not that I don't want to spend time with you. It's just, I know you have better things to do and more important trolls to be around. His confession only added to her confusion. What is that supposed to mean? You are very important to me. I love every minute I get to spend with you. Branch didn't turn around, but Poppy heard his disbelieving snort. Her eyes widened at that. I mean it! But he sighed, and lowered his head even more, his ears starting to droop. You are the princess. An amazing princess responsible for a good-humoured and fun-filled village. You shouldn't be wasting your time with a village grouch. You really think that's all you are? The village grouch? Maybe a lot of trolls see you that way, but I don't. At this, Branch's ears perked back up. Yes, you can be rather grumpy. I'm not denying that. But I see past all of that. Beneath the grey surface. To who you really are. Finally, he turned around, surprise and curiosity in his glistening eyes. Poppy continued, her gaze never leaving his. You're smart and unique and compassionate, and, believe it or not, you can even be lots of fun when you let yourself be. I notice and appreciate the little things about you. Things you probably don't even see in yourself. For example, when I got hurt, you were so gentle and caring. And then you even went out of your way to get the flowers for me. You put a blanket around me when you saw that I was cold. You picked my favourite berries. You gave me a hug when I was sad, even though you don't like hugs. You created the most beautiful poem I've ever heard. And those are just a few things off the top of my head. But I know there are tons more. You didn't have to do all of that. You chose to. Just like I choose to go out of my way to see you. You are definitely worth my time, Branch. He was beyond speechless, nearly forgetting to breathe as he tried to comprehend what he had just heard. Did he imagine it? Was this a dream? All this time, he was certain Poppy was spending time with him because she felt obligated to. She strongly and stubbornly believed everyone should be happy and positive, and he was the only one crabby troll that she'd never been able to cross off her list. But now, seeing the unwavering affection in her shimmering fuchsia eyes, Branch realised Poppy wasn't just acting like she cared out of habit or to be polite. She truly did care about him as an individual, and that made his heart ache in the most soothing way, the long broken pieces finally starting to mend. Without taking a millisecond to overthink anything, he stepped forward and threw his arms around her. Poppy was taken by surprise, but her affectionate instincts allowed her to recover instantly. She wrapped her arms tightly around his waist, pulling him in even closer. Branch let out a long, shaky sigh. It felt so wonderful to be in her arms like this, breathing in her sweet strawberry flower scent, feeling her soft hair brush against the side of his face, and the warmth of her slender form against him. For the 1 full minute they embraced, nothing else mattered. For the first time in so many years, he felt no fear, no doubt, no anger. Gradually his body quit trembling, and his brain began to process again. Branch gently withdrew from her grasp, struggling to hold himself together now.
Poppy, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing.
It's okay, Branch.
No, it's not okay. I'm such a disaster. All I ever do is hurt you or disappoint you. That's why I was convinced you'd be better off without me.
That is not all you do. Poppy reached for his hands, gripping them affectionately. Sure, we've had some ups and downs, but every friendship does. This is new for both of us. We're still figuring things out, still learning about each other's differences. I can't tell you how happy it makes me that you finally let me get to know you. Please don't fret over this, Branch. I forgive you. I really do. A final tear ran down his cheek, so Poppy gently reached up and wiped it away with her thumb, and then returned her hand back down to his own. Branch's shock slowly was wearing off, and without him realising it, a full smile spread across his face. Poppy's eyes widened like an owl's. Wow! Branch was a bit startled.
What?
I've never seen you smile like that. Then she added a bit shyly, You have a beautiful smile. Branch was still partially hypnotised by the turn of events, squeezed her hands in return, and said tenderly,
No, you have the most beautiful smile.
The unanticipated compliment, spoken in the smoothest voice she had ever heard, from the troll who was ironically considering himself the village grouch, combined to set Poppy's heart on fire. Her head was light and fuzzy as an enraptured smile replaced her initial shock. At that point, Branch's face did the opposite. His loving smile transitioned to utter shock. He had not intended for those words to be said out loud. He wasn't even sure where they'd come from. Poppy almost screamed at how irresistibly cute he looked with his extremely flushed face. Sure, she'd seen him blush a few times before, but nothing like this. His entire face had instantly turned a lovely shade of purple. Even his ears. Now totally flustered, Branch stumbled as he backed away, fidgeting with his leafy vest as he stuttered out how he should be going. But Poppy cut off his path, wearing a sly grin. Nope, I don't think so. Today's Wednesday, and last I checked, that's one of our afternoons to hang out. You're not getting rid of me that easily.
Branch let out a goofy chuckle. Right, yeah, okay, sure, I guess.
The princess adored his random bouts of bashfulness, especially when he followed up by trying and failing to sound grumpy. Let's take a walk down the southern trail. There's one location we haven't been through yet. She grabbed his hand to pull him along, but didn't let go as they began their stroll. Travelling along the path, Poppy caught his eyes discreetly glimpse down at their joined hands more than once. He kept his own hand loose, but made no attempt to escape her grasp either. At some point, Branch finally let his fingers curl securely around her hand. She loved the way his much larger hand engulfed hers, while maintaining that familiar, gentle touch of his. Meanwhile, the feeling of Poppy's hand snugly in his own was sending tingles all the way up his arm and into his neck. Sure, she'd probably held hands with 90% of the village, but that didn't mean Branch couldn't enjoy the silky softness temporarily in his grasp. Reaching a lookout point on a grassy hill, the two trolls took a quick break, munching on some blueberries from a nearby bush. After some comfortable silence, Poppy asked him if he had read her scrapbook yet.
His response was, "Yeah, I did. As soon as I returned home. It was..."
Hearing him trail off, Poppy almost became a bit anxious, until she noticed his cheeks were a bit purple again.
"Really nice. Thoughtful."
Her smile continued to grow as he continued to praise.
"And very well made. Your designs are so original. And the special effects are impressive. How do you come up with such ideas?"
Poppy giggled modestly. I don't know. I just think of a scene in my head and then bring it to life on paper. Work on each separate layer, bit by bit, and then put it all together."
Branch nodded, still looking impressed.
So the pink troll couldn't stop herself from adding, I could show you how to do it sometime, if you'd be interested." She expected him to gently decline her, or maybe even sarcastically reject her. But instead, he shrugged and murmured,
"Maybe. We'll see."
Finishing the roundabout trail after almost an hour, Poppy and Branch finally released their hands as they stopped to face each other. Occasionally, their grasp had faltered or broken apart completely, but she always returned her hand to his, and he never resisted in the least. In the end, it was him who casually reached for her hand and comfortably held on to it up to this point. Branch was looking at Poppy like he wanted to say something, and she was looking at him like she knew what he wanted to say. So he murmured with a shy little smile,
"Thank you for everything. Thank you for being my friend."
Tingles danced through Poppy's body. He's never directly called me his friend. Internally, she squealed as delight whirled through her like a river's current. But externally, she spoke with calm resolution. And thank you for being mine. Branch wondered if he'd ever be able to witness the pink and magenta troll's angelic smile without feeling like his knees were going to give out. No, probably not. Just then Poppy's bracelet flowered, signalling hug time. Her smile didn't falter, and neither did his. So she went for it, holding out her pink arms at her sides, with a look that wasn't expectant, but rather hopeful, and even a bit hesitant. Poppy's heart nearly leapt out of her chest when Branch bashfully mirrored her gesture, before tentatively stepping forward. Rather than lunging at him, she met him in the middle in the same manner, and the two trolls simultaneously settled into each other's arms. Branch was struggling to resist the urge to squeeze her tight, fearing if he did he would never be able to let her go. Although this hug wasn't as snug as the previous one, Poppy was still over the moon to finally be sharing affection with her reserved friend. The troll who had originally demanded
no hugging under any circumstances,
and now had freely accepted 3, all of which were either partially or fully initiated by him. After a lengthy moment, they ended the sweet hug, and Poppy reminded him, "You know, our afternoons together are really special to me. I'm so used to doing the same things over and over again every day." You know, our afternoons together are really special to me. I'm so used to doing the same things over and over every day. And they're great too. But this is something new, and something totally out of the ordinary. I can't wait to see what each day will bring. Even if Branch's incredible smile became a common occurrence, the princess would never tire of seeing it. He responded,
Me too.
In such a honey-smooth voice that it made her briefly wonder what his words would sound like as a melody. She'd bet her hair that his singing would be beautiful. She really hoped that someday, somehow, she'd have the opportunity to find out. In addition, while Poppy's ears absorbed his voice, her eyes took in his appearance. She could have sworn that Branch's skin looked a tint brighter. His black hair held a slight navy blue sheen, and his irises were more blue than grey. But it must just be the angle of the sunlight. Poppy kept both of those thoughts to herself, informing him instead that she'd be available Friday morning before lunchtime. He agreed that was fine. Then, just as she was about to head back to the village, he inquired,
Would it be alright if we met in that little clearing? The one surrounded by oak trees, off that trail just beyond my bunker?
Poppy happily agreed without question, not suspecting that Branch had any significant motive for the change in location. After the pink princess merrily skipped off, her towering ponytail swaying from side to side, Branch put a hand over his pounding heart, afraid that it was going to burst out of his chest. He let out a blissful sigh of pure relief.
She actually considers me a true friend. I never believed that could be possible. Sure, she doesn't care as deeply for me as I do for her, but she does care. A lot. And that is far more than I ever could have hoped for. I can't shut off my love for her, but I can stop wishing for more, and be grateful for the relationship I do have with her.
For the first time since he developed the tiniest of crushes on her several years ago, Branch's feelings for the princess were more manageable. He was now comfortable fully accepting that he loves her, instead of stupidly trying to pretend he didn't, or believing that loving her was pointless. He eventually headed back to the bunker, unaware that someone had been watching them. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I really like that one. Oh boy, so yes, there is a cliffhanger, and the next chapter's long and a lot. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals, and all-by-no pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.